Great. Thank you, Stephanie. And hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Perfect. Then let me just also try to share my document. So, perfect. Most probably you will see it now, the presentation itself. Great. Okay. Perfect. The journey today together in the next around 35, 40 minutes about input, and then later on, maybe the one or the other discussion. Our session today is 45 minutes. And as Stephanie was mentioning, we will go a little bit deeper also with the praxis for the sustainability to move it from a good intention to really defensible project success. This is one element, and exactly, I will take some examples, practical examples from the project I'm leading at the moment in Ethiopia, and this will be really reflecting this elements there. And please, if you have any question, any request, any clarification, put it in the chat or in the Q&A, and we will get to it later on, just after the input. Then just one element, one questions or two inputs before starting, and especially again and again, I'm receiving this even here in my project, in each steering committee, to be frank with you, each 3 to 6 months again, why this matter now. And this year, especially 2026, we are getting more and more input in this direction. And this is why really this year, for the first time, sustainability claims being audited. This is really something new. And of course, the big challenge, the big problem is most of this project, what we are leading, we are working on, cannot really produce evidence that this sustainability is evidence is there. Just to give you a few examples how it's moving. February this year, 2026, the EU, for example, I'm working in a project financed from the EU here in Africa, and the EU, just the corporate sustainability reporting directive is now a law. And this is, of course, here when we just see it in this way, we can see it in the formation that we have now the umbrella elements there. And of course, the disclaimer here, this is until 27 that the law will be applied in all EU member states, but at least this is really the first step in this direction. But of course, we have another element there, and this is why I will also tackle it in the fourth part of the session today, when I'm coming later on to the part with the AI, since we have these windows, this opportunity now. It means the demand of defensible sustainability from one side. The AI, of course, can produce or fake this evidence of the projects, but this is also just to show you how it's important just to have the possibility to work on it. And of course, not only to work on it, but really how to use it. And this is will be more or less what we will take with us today. We will have three takeaways. The first one is a very short, small decision tool, how you can use it, how you can apply it really from today, from tomorrow in your area. But of course, we will also discuss together, see together a sharper way to see where the sustainability actually breaks, where we have these problems and how we deal with it. And there you will see we have the standards there, we have the support to do it. We hear today here and there in different presentation in the morning that there is some standards, especially we hear today a lot about the P5 architecture, the P5 standards, and we will see how we can apply it. And of course, the last part, as I mentioned, will be the responsible AI for this setting, how we can use it there. This is why first part will be about the defensible or defensibility gap, how we can this intention, how we can see that our good intentions are collapsed under the pressure. Second part will be the P5, as I mentioned, and as impact architect, how we can use it, how we can apply it. The third one will be a very simple canvas, what we can use it, apply it also for our daily projects. And as I mentioned at the beginning, you will see it based on the project we started here last year. Is a big complex project involving a lot of stakeholders, a lot of impact, not focusing on sustainability, but we integrated the sustainability as a default element for it. And the last one, it will be our AI support mechanism, of course, not as substitute, but really as supporting our initiatives there. And before we start, always we are used to speak about the problem. And here is really what we are seeing last few years. We will see it at the very end of the project of the session with one reflection, what I prepared also for you. Most of the projects really begin with the strong sustainability intentions, also with other intentions, not only the sustainability intentions, but with a lot of other intentions, but really far fewer can defend them when delivery pressure arrives. And this is the big problem, what we have in the projects. And this is why we will start with it. We will see what is this pressure, and when the pressure hits, pressure could be cost, schedule, scope, procurement, political urgency, stakeholder resistance, any of the pressures coming there. And of course, this, in most cases, in most projects, sustainability moves from decision making into reporting, and sometimes even is getting out disparates entirely from the project. This is why our first maybe element question to you to start with, and please use the chat function here. Just let me know in your projects when we have really pressure, when the project comes under pressure, what happens with the sustainability? What is your experience there? A is nothing will happen. It is protected by governance until A, the red, it will be not discussed. We don't discuss it. It's not a topic. Just to see, to have an impression in the chat, please put your answers based on your experience, your own experience here. I see a lot of C's and D's. B, moving to reporting, but a lot of C's will be deferred. Okay. I don't see any A or one B move to reporting, only one. Luca is advanced in this area. And this is exactly the tendency what we see in the project. Exactly is reflected here in your answers, somewhere between C and D. And of course, this is really a point where we see that is more and more now reported in advance. And exactly like Ravinder is mentioning, of course, Europe is getting a little bit more stricter in this direction. It means if you have an indicator, or in some projects who are saying sustainability marker, it means you need to report the marker, and the marker is integrated. And your governance, it means is integrated. It's also mentioned in UK or even in New Zealand, there is these markers there. I know that in Canada, there is also different approaches in this direction, but we will see it. Why this is still not as integrated part of the system itself. Okay, thank you for the answers, and let's just dig deeper a little bit now and move with the first part of our session, especially to get to our core message, that really here the projects successfully when the value, and this is what we saw in different reports, can be evidenced, governed, and defended. Just keep, please, these three elements in mind. Evidence, governance, and defensible elements, then this is the success, what we will see, how to get there. Evidence, governance, and defense. So let's just start with the third part, the defensibility gap. And really here, how to deal with it. It means we saw it. Most of your answers are between C and D and the orange-red area of this scala. And this is why here, let's just try to analyze it, to see it. What's this? Why we see it in this way? And the first one will be just the pressure test. This is also one of the recommendations, what I really will recommend you to use it to see, okay, how is your project prepared? It means we can expect it. We will see how are the tools also there to expect it. AI is very good here to work with these 6 forces. Most of the time, they are very quietly disseminating the sustainability commitments. We mentioned costs. We note, all of us, the budget pressure is there. And of course, the first element is pushing the green options to this expensive extras, what we have in the systems. The second one, what we are also seeing and knowing, especially in large complex projects involving some geopolitical involvement, we never have the right time and schedule in our projects. And this is why it's really important to keep it in mind. Here, of course, the scope change, this also what all of us know it and see it in our projects, is the next force pushing our sustainability to be a little bit behind. Procurement, always a long discussions about it. Just also give you one example for us here in Ethiopia. Most of the time, the long discussion related to sustainability is the so-called lowest price logic behind it. But that we get there. It means it took a little bit longer, have longer discussions with our PMO to have the possibility to negotiate this lower price logic and to be a little bit out of these elements, to have some additional elements to put it. We started with some waiting, having a little bit more waiting for sustainability, and we get there. But of course, in the countries I'm working, and Stephanie was mentioning the different areas in the Middle East, in the Gulf region, and also in Africa, we have another force, the political urgency. This is also sometimes pushing us as projects, as organizations, as entities, and sometimes even as project managers. And we know it, all of us, we have somewhere this effect saying, okay, this is a very important task or change or priority from the political party. And of course, we need, especially if we have this linkage there in our work, to see how to protect it. But of course, the other element is the stakeholder resistance. It means it's not only internally in our project, in our area, but even with the external stakeholders. And of course, all these elements, you will see it in a very nice mixed part. The mixer sometimes putting all of them in the mixer, and you will get a reason saying, oh, reputational urgency. This is the reputation of the person, organization, project manager sometimes, but you will hear it in different format. And this is why most of the time we are speaking about a pattern. The pattern is always the same. Sustainability slides from the decision table into status report, put out of the project. And this is, of course, this is really is nothing built to build the whole in place. This is why we are working on this. How to do it, how to get there. Before getting there, having this mindset, claimed value and defensible value. We have the two, and we need this shift. We are working all together in this shift. We hear today very nice inputs about how to get there. And this is just, as I mentioned, a shift in the mindset. Just here a few examples, 5-6 examples about it. When we are speaking about the claimed value, we are saying we aim to be sustainable. Defensible value, we can prove the value we created. We have the evidence for it. The same here, it is in the proposal and in the report, and here tied in a documented governance decision. You will hear, I mentioned at the beginning, 3, evidence governance. This is something very, very important. And of course here, most of the time when it's claimed, it's backed by intentions and narratives. When it is defensible value, it's backed by thresholds. We will just see it in a few seconds in the next slides. What this means, we define our thresholds for the sustainability, how we deal with it, how we can put it in shape to move forward with it. And of course, when we just say falls apart under audit and any other pressure, we have the other one, defensible one, is one that really holds under pressure, under audit, under funder and board steering committee scrutiny is there. And another example, and of course, cannot drive a life decision, drive decisions in real time. And this is really how we can see it and how we can work together in this mindset shift. We have here also the example. Then I'm going to the field evidence, the praxis, what I have it. Is the German International Corporation, the company I'm working for. We have our country office in Ethiopia, is an EU-funded project, and I'm working in a nice field called Green and Digital TVET transformation. TVET is Technical Vocational Education training. This is training, and we are working on these areas. The first element, how, as we designed these elements, we tried, okay, really building it from the scratch. Very, very, at the beginning, put visible what we have as a force, what is our power to put it, and of course, really put the risks, the danger for our project here. And this is why through this session, we will see it really as a live program. The big program, what I'm mentioning is the duration is 4 years, started last year. We have 4 years to work on it with different projects on it, and even sometimes programs, but we are defining this as a program. And of course, here we will see how we can move with it about this 4 years project and how we design it to start and to have the sustainability as a default element on it. And when we just get there, our first element was to say, okay, we need somewhere to start. The first element was the SDGs alignment, really as a decision input, not only as reporting. And we see even now step-by-step the results on it. This is why we put just back on the design part, I selected 4. Defended with the funders, with the funding institutes, but also with our political partners. The fact that sometimes the interest is not really the same, but this is why I'm mentioning always alignment. It must not be 100%, but we need to have some references. And there, for this program, what I mentioned, we selected just the 4, 8, 13, and 17. And of course, after long discussions, we defined some indicators, and we will see later on how we integrate it in the praxis. Perfect. Means the first step, be aware about this gap, be aware about this needed mindset shift, and then from there, we move forward with the tools. The first element we took it was the P5 as impact architecture. And this is really was a very nice surprise, as we saw also the new version of it, the version 4. I will also come to it in a few seconds, and how we can adapt this new elements and the new versions to use it there really as a new step to work with it, not only as a checklist that we have checked, but really as an architecture to try to find out where is our impact that matters in the project. And here we will go and see how to deal with it. And this new release was just released 2 months ago in end of April 2026. And then for us, we just see it in this way. The P5 give us just a structured way to surface sustainability impact, a common language. It was very important for us, the fact that before the discussions, we had a long discussion with our political partners. For them, it was their mindset, their NDC reporting, the fact that here in Ethiopia, we will organize the COP32 next year in 2027, November 2027. Of course, the climate conference moving from Brazil to Turkey this year and next year to Ethiopia, the focus was somewhere else. And this why, for me, was also very important to have the common language, to speak the same language when we are discussing some indicators and then some thresholds. And this was also for our PMO and steering committee. We had just 1 month ago a bigger steering committee with private sector, with the political partners, with the funding institutes, and then the long discussion get to, okay, here is our definition. Here is our language when we are speaking about sustainability in our project. But of course, here is very important element is this P5s will put the bridge between the sustainability principle and of course, decision and benefits for how we do it. And when I'm just taking this, for me, the new version has 3 very important and central elements. The first one is the materiality element, very important, especially when I'm speaking with the private sector. They need this as a part, as an element. But of course, the evidence ready by design. Last year, I presented the sustainability by default in Phoenix in the Global Summit. And this was the first step in this direction, that we have it by default. But of course, another element, in my case, working in both in the green and AI or digital and AI transformations, is very important to be AI aware. This is also the addition, what we have. And getting this we use it as the formal architecture for the project, for the design of the projects. From there, we said, okay, let's just have a look on this 5 Ps. The people, for us, is the labor and human rights, society, custom ethics that we get. Planet, we have the elements on it, prosperity, product, and process. How to deal with it. The 5 impact domains are defined, well presented. From there, we put it in the design of the project to move with it. And this is why, for us, is only really an element where we can say it. Here, we define just the hotspots. Where are the hotspots of our projects? Of course, just also for you, the design of our projects, especially 4 years projects, lot of money, lot of stakeholders, it takes time of negotiation. And of course, here, this what we will also see it later on, is important to find these hotspots. We define the projects, the context. I will give you also one prompt how to use AI for this element. And this was our very important step there. These hotspots are for us where the sustainability by default is designed. And of course, the ones who are working with the P5 will hear a lot about lenses. And this is why I'm saying, okay, we are moving now from a lens to an architecture. And of course, if we see it there, for me here, for a TVET training project, as I mentioned, training, vocational education training, I have the people, I define what is the hotspot. in my area, in my project, in my context, is, for example, equitable access for women and rural youth. This is a very important element. The energy and e-waste is very important in this new digital labs. We have some infrastructure. I'm speaking about AI and digital transformation. Needs a lot for a country, especially in the rural area where we don't have enough energy for this. But of course, prosperity is another element, what we call also the catchment area of the industrial parks we are working with. Local job creation is very important for us to have a little bit balance vis-a-vis the import dependency in this country. And of course, we have also another big element about the product. As always, the graduate skills is still relevant for the next 5 to 10 years. And the process, we need just to have a fair and transparent partner selection. And this is, in this different settings, environments where I worked, this is the key element, really the key element to be fair and transparent about the selection. A lot of discussion about the selection criteria, how we are selecting this, why, and being really transparent even after 10 years, saying, okay, here, these are our selection criteria. This is why we selected this college in this area and this governorate and not the other one. And these are the elements. This is a simplified way how we just put our P5s in the hotspots. And of course, from there, we are going to something called the dynamic materiality. And this is always as a very central element with the governance. And this is also have a lot of implications in our governance structure, but we are moving mostly in the different areas with this different new mindset of the materiality, from the initiation to the planning to the delivery, even to the handover and transition. And this is a part what takes a little bit longer to understand it, even for our local partners here. For them, the last 40, 50 years was more or less project start and goodbye, more or less. No more thinking about it. It's closed, but we introduce also this transition and sometimes also the handover that we take it with us in this area. But how we are doing this and why we are doing this? The first thing is just to try to make the analysis and really as element where we have the P5 impact move to the governance part. And of course, as I mentioned, in the project, we have the 4 or the 5 elements. Then just an example, put it just a threshold. I have a project in my log frame, we call log frame indicators and milestones. I have such numbers on it. It means, of course, here there is a lot of negotiation and how to reach it is important. But of course, we need just to have it there. And then we have defined who is the owner of these different levels, of these different decisions. And of course, if we have, for example, as an owner, the infrastructure manager, I will be asking him each time when we're just having a result of one of the activities of the project. And of course, here, this will be a sheet when we just go through it and discuss it and see what are the results there. And this is just as a simplified illustration about these elements, how we put it there, how we can really control it. And of course, we need to be realistic. It means here, when you see the 30% of the local jobs is based on our situation analysis, on the analysis of what is really feasible there. Of course, we are trying to get better. It's always a very nice surprise when we get better, but most of the time we are just trying really to be realistic and not to demotivate not only the team, but our also local partners. And this is, of course, one very simplified element, how to think, adapt these standards to our tools. And this is also a very simple canvas what we prepared based also on this sustainability by default. Decision canvas is really based on a very simplified elements, not as an additional workload for us. Is just we tried to put it as simple as possible based on the experience I had the chance to be also program project manager for 7 years in the Middle East. This was the results from what we had discussed there. And then we just get there and define 6 steps. Define really the outcome. Really from the very beginning, the discussion about the outcome, and with a very simple question, sometimes with a lot of time to get it answered, what sustainability results are we committed to? Then we just, when we have the outcome, we try to identify the impact, how we can P5 impact is material here. Then we move to put our thresholds. I show you some numbers. It is also, of course, very important element just to be realistic there. Moving to some signals. These are what we are calling the leading signals, how to move with it, and really how to predict it. Very important element. We will see it just also in a few seconds, how to use AI for it. But also, we just try to have this lagging proof. Means what evidence confirms it after the fact. Fact-based elements, not only intentions. This is what we said at the beginning. But of course, a very important element to prepare ourselves to escalate it. To escalate it, and especially to have a point saying, okay, what are the triggers? A governance decision if it is at risk. This is also a very important element. Sometimes it's not accepted, sometimes it takes time. I have it. I had the discussion this morning in one of these risks. Maybe you can see it, the governance structure don't see it, and vice versa. Sometimes they are seeing what we cannot see, and this is the very nice effect that they know we have the so-called escalation level. And this is what I mentioned just before, the governance triggers and the thresholds. Of course, when we have the thresholds, this will be turning the intention to a rule. We know it is a number behind it. We care about local jobs. This is an intention. 30% of local sourcing by value, this is a threshold. It means if I'm getting to get 1,000 people trained, then I know it. I need the 300 locally. Of course, trigger is also another element, and here is trigger is turning a breach into an action. The same here is really a trigger says what happened when the threshold is at risk. Then this is something we can react with it, and very early, really in a very early area. And this is a little bit the planning element, what we integrated, and how this was, how to put it really as part of the default element. And of course, just here for you, as I mentioned, is not an additional element. Very simple takeaway. Threshold plus trigger. This is the smallest unit for defensible sustainability. It means you put or you turned the intentions to rule, and then you have the trigger to protect these rules. If these rules are at risk, then you have it there. And this is what we call the decision canvas. It means it's a very simplified element to say, okay, here our work is based on this threshold, and when these thresholds are in danger, we have our triggers and signals for it. And of course, when you just say it, okay, how to deal with these leading signals and lagging proofs is exactly the same elements. Just put your leading signals as the predictive elements, your lagging proof as the so-called confirmation. It's really the mindset shift what we saw it. Predict early, confirm later, and you need both of the elements to defend the results. If just only predict and forget will not really work. We need both of them. The leading signals as prediction, the lagging proof as confirmation. And of course, here there is a lot of new elements to introduce this, the so-called sustainability by default, to have also here the possibility to do it. Just an example, local economy value. Just I am taking one of the P's to go through it, one impact end to end. The outcome, we define it, TVET investment strengthen the local economy, not just import supply chains. We still have it, this import supply chains, but we have it there. Of course, P5 impact, we mentioned the prosperity threshold, 30%. Leading signal, local supplier share in each shortlist, local content score at tender stage. Really, this local elements, what we defined here is part of it. Then the lagging proof is the local spend per cycle, and of course the number of local suppliers onboarded and retained. This is again focusing on our threshold. And of course, escalation, when it is 2 cycles below the 30%, then we need just to have a look on it, to deep dive, to ask our PMO for meetings, for an exchange, and say, okay, our procurement strategy need to be reviewed. And of course, this is really an element what we discussing, and of course, sometimes even on the steering committee level. But this is just a simplified element. It means you have the 3 colors. Always, I'm using the very nice signals and 3 colors there. And green, everything is fine. Orange, we need to be careful. Red is escalation. And when we just
warning.
go, yes, yes. And then we have here the very nice reporting grade and decision grade, the same element, just the same data, but 2 different levels of usefulness. So AI, I promised to give you some elements. 4 roles, strengthening your decision canvas. Identify the hotspots, test your assumptions, draft indicators, and of course, expose the evidence gaps. It seems at the beginning a lot, but not really the elements. Just keep in mind, accountable judgment is not delegable. We cannot delegate it to anyone. We can have the hotspots, but we need the decision. Draft threshold, we need just to commit. Have a detect the breach, we need to decide. Summarize the evidence, some human stands behind it. And of course, later on, you have the possibility to see the slides. Here is a prompt, as we are saying about it, how to use it, how to just take the hotspots analysis on it. So, and then I will just move directly now to the very nice key insights here due to the time restraint. First element is sustainability fails under pressure, not because teams stop caring. Always in mind. The second one is, of course, a claim you cannot evidence is a liability. This is a very simple one. The third one, use AI to find the gaps, but never carry it to the accountability. And you will see it. One reflection, the report published at the beginning of this week, the Sustainability Development Report. I shared this figure with different colleagues, also with the sustainability champions, just to reflect just on these numbers of how the status of the SDGs reports just published, as I mentioned, this week, beginning of this week. Limited progress is by 67%. I will just keep it there. And just one last call for action. Don't claim it, just defend it. Put it in your agenda, evidence, governance, defense. So, and back to you, Stephanie. We can maybe see if we have still 2.5, 3 minutes to answer the one or the other question.
If anyone has any
So,
questions, you can pop them in the chat, or I hear someone, so go ahead.
I'm just opening the chat. I don't see any
Any?
any of the question. Yes, maybe. And Q&A, also nothing.
I have one.
Go on.
So should project sponsors be required to formally justify every decision that weakens a sustainability commitment? Just like they would for like a major scope reduction or a budget overrun?
Yes, and this will be triggered with the thresholds. It means they need really to agree on these thresholds. I know sometimes they are not reading this in details, and then if you have it there, then oh, we accept it. Oh, we don't know under which conditions we accepted this and this one. But really, the point is they need to be on board, and this is also the recommendation, really, from the very, very beginning. Okay. I still don't see any questions here. If not, I would like to
Oh,
thank
so we
you,
have one
Stefan.
question.
Ah, good. Let me just see. Yes, Ravinda, go on. If you are speaking,
I
I
don't hear
cannot
you.
hear you, Ravinda.
They're unmuted, but I don't hear them still.
Okay.
Oh, in the chat now.
Okay, perfect. Yes, I saw it. Great. How can you track and ensure management stick with you on and defend the project in terms of sustainability? And this is also close to what Stephanie was asking, Ravinda, is exactly this time you spent at the beginning to define your thresholds and your triggers. It means this is inside there, and you can get back there. And of course, if there is changes due to this big different pressures, we saw it, and different changes, you need again to get to this documentation level to see how your triggers and signals will change the risks of the projects. And as I mentioned, depending from your project and sensitivity of your projects, it will be a balance that we don't have any damage, as I mentioned, for example, the reputational damage, the organizational damage, and so on. This will be balanced. But the very, very key element here is to have really the commitment and written and based on thresholds, not only on intentions. As I mentioned, for example, in our example, we don't just say we have the intention to have local procurement. We write it 30% of the local procurement is needed. And then this is something what we can defend and see if it is we are on the good way on it or is changing. And this is exactly one of the gaps, Ravinda. The timelines is a very important element. They cannot override it. When you have this right trigger and signals to escalate it, this is one element to stop, and then you have these elements to work with it. Perfect.
We see
Thank
one
you.
more question in the chat, but we're over time, so I don't know if we want to address that one quickly or not. But thank you. So thanks everyone for joining, and the Menti link is in the chat, so you can fill that out and get your PDU code. And we'll see you in a few minutes in another session. Thanks, Eka.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.